I said, welcome everyone to another episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. Managed to mute myself, but not my co-host, because that's how apparently I'm rolling right now. Anyway, folks, we got a great show for you today. It's been a long time. We've got a bit of business before that, so let's get into it. That's right, everyone. We're going to be looking at the Canadian movie 40 Acres, what I would call a post-apocalyptic action thriller. Maybe some sci-fi elements. I think that's part of what we're going to be talking about tonight is the genre, and let's say the micro genre, the micro storytelling way, as our friend of the show, Mr. Oh my goodness, wrote the Screenwriter's Taxonomy, a whole book about genre, and I cannot remember the man's name, the professor's name. Oh well, such is life. But let's get into it. Let's bring on my co-host with the most, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jim Chaboyko.
There you go.
How you doing, my friend?
Like the French, we take all of August off.
Apparently we do, at least from our show. Well, and you know what? You did manage to have a pretty cool holiday. Saw you on social media. And hey, look at this. You're still Evan at Evan Coos.
No.
I will be fixing that shortly, folks. That's my bad. Anyway, Jim, tell us about your awesome trip.
Yeah, just kept it to Canada. Managed to score some hotels earlier in the spring, so we weren't overwhelmed by all this domestic travel we told that was going to happen. The places were pretty busy, so we checked out various hills and mountains. So the Cypress Hills, and then Waterton National Park in the southwest corner of Alberta. Yeah. And then Canmore, where we have some friends, and then came home and had one night in Swift Current, where a storm tried to overtake us, but we made it to the day. What is it? The number 6 Inn. Yeah, one of those Days Inn. It was Days Inn.
Yes.
Made it to the Days Inn on time. I was sitting in the hot tub when the thunderstorm caught up with us, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, no, a really nice really good touring, old-fashioned touring trip. Saw a lot of stuff and climbed a few mountains and had a great time. So, and the weather was pretty decent too. So,
Ah,
yeah, it's a great country. It's pretty interesting and lots to see. So,
there we go. I fixed it.
oh, that was quick. Wow. I've been talking for 45 minutes. Just kidding.
Let's see if I can't fix the other one, because that's also wrong. Bear with me.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm recording two things here. You know what? Actually, I am not going to worry about it too much. I rarely push anything out on the verticals, and I can always fix it later. I can make that gizmo work at a later date. Jim,
Mm-hmm.
let's jump into, actually, let's not jump into this film just yet. I know I shared this with you before. First of all, let's, you know what? Actually, let's shamelessly beg for a like, a subscribe, and maybe a ringy ding of that bell.
Actually, I hit the bell with the microphone. That's a twofer.
Yeah, folks. Before we get into that, we're going to talk about how to review a movie, or perhaps in this case, how not to review a movie. I don't know if Jim, you remember, but it was last winter, like early 2024, February 2024, when you and I caught Argylle, pretty much the opening week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember this flick, Jim?
No, I don't. I don't remember anything I said about it.
Well, you know what? That's here. Let me see if I can find it. That here, right here, Jim.
I've got some tape queued, says Rob.
This is what the internet's for. We were proponents of this film. We I believe and I'll put a link, folks, down below if you want to look at this review. You were a soft see it. I was a little more enthusiastic. And in the course of the conversation, we both became more complimentary of the film. Now, of course, we did qualify it a touch. We had just gotten out of the theater opening week, and it's always, you know what? You're having a good time when you go to the theater. You don't have any interruptions. And then it's been part of our ritual for years now, Jim. Mm-hmm. End up at a Tim Hortons to talk about it. And now that we've added this complication, mm-hmm. We talk about it even more. We talk about it in a more structured way. But that said, I always kind of, and if memory serves, you and I have talked about this before, but I've always kind of felt it's like, did I lay it on a little too thick? Is it really that good a movie? Mm-hmm. I don't know. This may have been a stinker because I'm a fan of Matthew Vaughn, a fan of everyone in the film. Bryce Dallas Howard. Oh my God, what the hell is the man's name again?
Henry Cavill?
Not Henry Cavill. Sam Rockwell.
Oh yes, Sam
and
Rockwell,
then yes, yeah. Henry Cavill. Like it had it had a great cast. Buddy who plays Heisenberg. What the hell?
Oh, Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston had a great role. But even after, I'm like, oh, is it that good? I don't know. Maybe not. And the further we got away from it, Jim, the further I was just like, oh, you know what? If I ever do a top 10, I got the wrong take on this. It would be this movie. Mm. Of course, come into it. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. What makes a good review? What makes a good reviewer? What we can and can't expect out of a reviewer? Something that you and I have been talking about for years. Yeah. But we get this comment from a friend of the channel. Here's Julia, and Louise Julig. Why am I calling her Julia? All right, here we go. And I'll read it out. Whoopsie. Apparently, I'm going to have to. There it is. Okay. I usually think you guys are pretty spot on, but this was a hard fail. Argylle was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's like, ooh, yikes. I adore Sam Rockwell and will see just about anything he is in, and that was the attraction for me to stream this. But holy crap, was this a stinker. Way too overblown. I felt manipulated instead of surprised by the plot twists, and the spy stuff was way too corny. I am up for a bit of poking fun at the spy genre, but it seemed this movie was trying to have it both ways, and it doesn't work like that. Also, I will never get those whirly bird scenes out of my brain, unfortunately. Whoops. Wrong button. I should say. Whoops. Just ugh. Male gaze much? Sorry, guys. This was a def skip it if there ever was one. Mm-hmm. And here's what I responded, because it was like, Jim, I felt guilty about this. I did, and it bugged me. And here's Louise kind of bringing up a lot of the same things I was thinking about as the days between watching it, grew. So I responded to her. Yeah, the more time that passes between me and this review, the more I think to myself, what the hell was past me thinking? I will elaborate as to why I think I felt that way when and how. I will elaborate as to why I think I felt that way then. And it looks like I need a comma there, Jim. And how it was terrible takes like this that have changed how I look at films for the better now. I'll post a link when that's up on the channel. Louise, if you're not watching now, we'll have a little chunk for you. All right. That said, Jim, you know what? I watched it and I'm like, you were a soft see it. I was a little more enthusiastic, but I wasn't going, oh my God, this is the best comedy ever. That said, would I give it a different review now? I hope I would. I hope it had been soft see it or maybe even right on the line. But here's the thing. I think there's two aspects to, this is becoming, Jim, my, let's say, part of my grand thesis on do a review, how to be a reviewer. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, and this is something I've talked about, but I'm going to make you got to be present to the film. You have to be present to it. Mm-hmm. And I think the best way to be present to a film, of course, is at the theater. No movie will ever look as good as it does in the theater.
Or sound as good.
Yeah, it won't sound as good. It won't feel as good. You don't have your phone there. You don't have a bunch of lights distracting you. That's where it looks the best. Now, that does have there's a problem with that. We did say in the review, we said, well, we just got out of the theater. But I think that is something that is an inherent problem to any reaction video. And I think from now on, I'll probably be qualifying it, saying, listen, we did just get out of the theater. That's when it looks its best. Mm-hmm. Your mileage at home may vary. Mm. That said, a lot of the movies, including the one we're going to talk about tonight, you and I reviewed on streaming.
Yeah.
You know what? And I've still had moving experiences. I think there, though, if in the theater you can maybe mark a little easier, at home you can end up marking a little harder. And that has happened with a few films on the channel. Probably the most recent one would be, for me, Past Lives. I marked it hard that first time around. Second time I saw it, I was just opened myself up to the film more. It had more of an emotional impact on me. And that's, I think, part of it. Be present to the movie, but remember that your biases kick in. That was another thing that I probably could have even thought about more as I was soft praising Argylle,
Mhm.
Jim, and that is I am a fan of Matthew Vaughn. I am a fan of Bryce Dallas Howard, and I thought that it just becomes, you just become a softer marker. I wanted to see it. I was looking forward to it. And I think that can sometimes make you an even softer marker.
Mhm.
And so I think that would be one of the things you gotta, all right, do you have a mean on for the filmmaker, or do you have a mean on for the genre, or are you more open to it? These are
Mhm.
things that you got to factor in when you're talking about being open to the film and kind of trying to let go of some of these biases at the beginning and at the end, kind of going,
Mhm.
I shouldn't be picking these up again. Um, That said, I also think, Jim, there's another aspect to this that we haven't talked about is, and maybe this will be fleshed out another part, but I think the other half of being a good reviewer is understanding and be able to say why something worked or didn't work, and not with, oh, the sumptuous, the cinematography, the amazing performances, all that crap. But that I will reserve for another time. I think it's time to jump
Well,
into. Oh,
hold
yep,
on. I just wanted to add a couple things.
please,
When
yes.
you and I were talking earlier this afternoon, or texting, I had sort of jokingly said, yeah, but in our defense, which by the way, we should have a new segment. In our defense, have a big opening, trumpets and stuff.
Well, here, let me.
Uh,
Let's
it,
see if I
well,
can hook you up there, Jim.
Chalk something up while I'm talking.
Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That is not the trumpet we were looking for. Anyway,
um,
continue. Sorry, Jim, I'm
but
interrupting.
no. In our defense, and I was sort of joking about this, but sort of not. It was either January or February in Winnipeg at
February
the time.
7th.
And anytime you get outside, you brave the elements, and you're in a warm French countryside or whatever. I think that has to, that along with recency bias,
Yeah.
are two of the things that I think go into this. Is it's the thing that you've seen most recently, and
Yep.
you unless it's completely devoid of any quality, you come out of it sort of like, oh, okay, well that's and especially I'm not sure where Louise is from, but especially in winter here, it's kind of hopeless. The nights are very long and dark, and Argylle was a very sunny movie, south of France kind of thing, and I think that can sort of again soften. It's death by or it's life by 1,000 cuts. I guess it's these things sort of work against you a little bit. Somebody once said that Siskel and Ebert, what made them such good reviewers is they weren't initially big movie guys, right? They were coming at it from different perspectives, and so they didn't. Not that we were trained in movie criticism, but you have that distance there, and distance is always good, but
and trained reporters or trained newspaper men.
Mm-hmm. By the way,
some
city which
editor going, well, but why is it good or why is it bad?
Neither of which, neither their jobs exist anymore at their Chicago newspapers. So, which is pretty sad, but anyhow, so I would say that there's some biases at work, and I don't think we were over the top about it. I think we enjoyed ourselves. But
another watch, and I'm like, well, actually, I'm pretty pleased with this. Could have qualified it a bit more, and I think that behooves anyone, reviewer or watcher of reviews. Is it a reaction? Maybe take what they have to say either way with a grain of salt. One more thing on the in our defense, something, and it is something that I kind of, the male gaze much.
I'm not sure she meant that for us. I think there was a lot like on Dua Lipa because she had she was obviously in the role and stuff like that. But I think it was maybe from Vaughn's point of view because he's just
you
reading
know what
that.
I perhaps. But I'm thinking for the purpose of our review and even this film, casting Bryce Dallas Howard, I think was not casting to type. Like
Mhm.
it's, yes, she is like any movie star, attractive, but it's not, let's say, a former supermodel.
Mhm.
It's not Gal
Not
Gadot.
not typical. Yeah.
Not, yeah, so I think, especially where she was in life, I think she had just had another child. Like, I mean, she's working director also, all that stuff. I don't think that charge on us is, plus, yeah, it was Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone else was fine. Matthew Vaughn was the reason I want to watch the movie.
Mhm.
All right. That said, Louise, thanks for the critique.
Yeah.
It's finally got me off my ASS to talk about at least half of the, let's say, my theory on film reviewing and film analysis. The other half to come out soon. So thanks for that. Thanks for being on, thanks for always bringing your comment game to our channel, Louise. All right. And sorry for calling you Julia.
And it sounds like she's watched a few of our things, so thank you for that. And
yeah, she's been a fan of the channel, Jim.
yeah. And the what was the other thing? Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, I just saw now that it was 3 days ago. I hadn't realized that that comment was that recent. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been wearing on my brain for a while.
Okay.
All right. Let's now talk about the movie at hand. That's right, folks. We're talking about little Canadian content here, 40 Acres. And Jim, this flick has one of the best log lines I have read. I didn't even have to edit it, didn't have to rewrite it, right from the producer's website, the distributor's website. It's Haley Freeman and her family are the last descendants of African-American farmers who settled in rural Canada after the First Civil War. In a famine-decimated near future, they now struggle to safeguard their farm against those hell-bent on taking their 40 acres. I mean, that's a chef's kiss.
Yeah.
That's a chef's
like
kiss
end.
log line.
It ends well.
Yeah. What? And you know what that is? That's Jim. That's the movie. That is what it's about. Post-apocalyptic future. There's a disease of some sort that, like a fungus that not only affected farm animals, which there are none of now, no animals at all, affected farm life, farmland. So good farmland is hard to find or non-existent. And of course, it's several years now after this fall.
Mm-hmm.
There is some sort of quasi-government called the Union trying to, perhaps reestablish some order. But right now, it's all a bunch of little pockets of human beings. One in the network, which of course we'll discuss further later. But I am. I think that's the capture. Jim, why don't we start with you?
Sure.
And can you give us a see it or a skip it?
Yeah, I'm a real strong see it on this one. I know you might differ with me on this one, but we don't usually talk about it before the show. But you had mentioned a couple things. I thought it was sort of a tired genre, but a fresh, more honest take on it, without almost a sort of a, I don't want to say low key, but kind of a lower key approach. I thought the performances were great, and a lot of it was character based as opposed to just situation based, which a lot of times these movies defer to the situation rather than the character. So I thought, and there was two great action sequences, so we can delve into those a little bit more. But it was a really good Canadian movie. Kind of surprised that it hasn't made more of a splash.
Yeah. Myself, Jim, I'm I'm a soft seed on this one. Now, some of it is, let's put a qualifier. We just talked about this.
Yeah.
I think I'm, if not done with the genre, I am close to it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the next. I'm like, hey, if it isn't Sinners or Nope, you know, like I want to, you know, I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to see what I now consider is just a right-wing gun fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
That said, it's a pretty good film. It delivers a lot of the genre expectations. I think it does have some pacing problems. There's some story structure problems that we'll get into in the spoiler zone. But yeah, mostly I am just, some of my mean on will be because I think I'm just done with the genre. I'm done with this weird kind of fantasy. But you know what? That's all spoiler stuff because we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the film. So yeah, let's do that. Let's get into the spoiler zone. Jim, let's tell us what you thought of it. Elaborate a bit more on why you think it was good. What you thought was different from other movies of this kind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was it was very streamlined in a certain way, and I'll explain it with this example. Is that you know, being in the spoiler zone, it starts off with action, like they are being raided by some strangers, sort of a ragtag, fairly well armed group of a lot of people, but I don't think they show the family until it's done. I think you mostly see these people surrounding the farm and approaching the farm.
Yeah, there's a smaller gang, though. I think it's like
a
maybe
few shots.
10 people.
Yeah,
you
don't know what these folks are, all white, by the way, are up against. And as they approach the farm, they all get taken out one by one. Some of the people involved in the attack or the defense are kids, and there's never any of this kind of like, oh, my first kill. Oh, how will I, you know, and those are sort of
these are experienced child soldiers.
Yeah. So they've done this before, and you don't get any of that kind of like, when there's a new story like this, written by I believe the director and another gentleman, there's traps, there's choices you make, and there's traps you can get in, there's side quests, and at no point did my shoulders sag and go, oh, we gotta go and do this. Oh God, this is gonna be a horrible set piece. So all the choices I thought they made were kind of interesting. Is there trouble with the kids? Do they cause a little bit of trouble? Yes, but it's not dumb trouble like Avatar. It's a genuine choice of the Manny, the teenage son has to make.
Those zany kids.
Oh, they've taken off with my speedboat again, and they're whatever. Anyway, but so yeah, there is some plot based on the choice of the young man. I guess he's a teenager, Manny. Haley's son, Daniel Detweiler's character's son, but it's not a dumb choice. Like, he's genuinely presented with like, holy crap, what do I do here? And it's not that sort of dumb like Scooby-Doo trouble that happens in say Avatar. So those are some of the things that I liked about it, that it was fairly streamlined in that way, and it was fairly honest. There was no sort of BS. Like, if you're gonna, this is something that filmmakers do a lot. They have a movie where you have to kill people.
Yep.
And then they go, oh, we killed people, and it's almost like, geez, you can't have it both ways. Like, either you like the violence or you don't. Like, you're all in. Like,
if the premise is this, well, you don't get to moan about it. Not years into it.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point, Jim.
So those are some of the things I liked. I liked the choices. I liked that it was character based. A lot of it was based on Daniel Detweiler being inflexible. She's really
Oh
quite
yeah.
hard on her son Manny, and there's sort of a surprise as to his reaction at the end. And he says something actually quite kind to her.
You can throw down.
Yeah,
We're in the spoiler zone.
well, yeah, he just says, I mean, you're our mom, you would do anything to protect us. I get it. And I thought that was kind of a touching point in the middle of this raid.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is just it's not a woke thing. It's an interesting thing. I like that it was a mixed race family. It was First Nations and Black Canadians. I thought it seemed different. Like it's just it offers different opportunities. And the fact that Manny was Black and then the subsequent daughters were First Nations and Black. And there's another neat aspect of it is that I'm not sure which I'm not going to guess a First Nations language. Michael Grey Eyes, his character Galen, speaks to his daughters.
I want to say it was like it's referred to online as Cree.
Is it?
But
okay,
I'm not that like online reference. Like it certainly isn't through. Oh, I could totally hear that.
But it's these little asides and stuff, and they didn't subtitle it at all. And I just thought, okay, that's kind of a cool choice. So
did you watch it on Hoopla?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's subtitles available. Hoopla just is such an inadequate stream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I was going to mention that it is available in Canada on Hoopla if you get a chance. We should, we don't do that enough to say where you can actually find these things.
Jim. Whoops. That's sorry. Well, let me give you my take first, and then I got some more questions for you. I think it's a perfectly fine film. I do actually think that you're absolutely right. They start with action, which is a good way to go. You're like, okay, I get an idea of the world we're in without it telling me. And then for the next 30 minutes, it's a whole bunch of telling. Like you don't have another, you really don't. You get a lot of warnings as what is it? Mrs. Freeman. Haley. As Haley sits in her bunker listening and doing F all about the suffering she hears over the radio. But you're kind of going, you're being told of the peril that they're facing. You never actually see it. Even the moments when they do leave, you don't get many. It takes a while to give us any tense moments. And so it isn't 40 minutes in, 41 minutes in. This is why I had to go get a different version so I could time the stuff out better. 41 minutes in a bit of a rewatch where it's like, this is when the movie really starts. Like, it's 100-minute movie. 40% of the movie should not be done before it finally, now we're moving. Now the movie. So I think that's a problem. Not a killer, but that's a problem. I think the other thing is there's some interesting thematic questions Thorne raises and never really answers properly. You start with these, okay, is this some weird Fred Hampton, Black Panther Marxist kind of operation? And it's like, nope, it's not that. It's child soldiers, and we're looking after our own. Which I think is, and so you kind of get, you sort of, okay, I can see the problem. You got young people, because even the oldest daughter is like, so in the network, this network that's never, I don't think it's ever really properly explained. But it's not just Manny perving on some refugee girl. The oldest daughter's name.
Dawn.
Thank you, Dawn.
No, Dawn's the girl, the mystery girl.
Oh, no. We're talking about the oldest daughter, Michael Grea's character's daughter.
Yep. I'll look it up.
Anyway, she's asked, is there any people out there you don't know who they are? I mean, it's just people my age. So you get this. There's a problem here. This is untenable. their scenario's untenable. But I think that could have been gotten to a lot quicker. And
Rain? I think it's Rain.
Yeah. I think that could have been hit a little quicker and a little harder. But you're right. Yeah, Manny is given a dilemma. It's not a, well, that was a dumb, wow, you had you had a reasonable choice and a stupid one. And of course you picked the stupid one because plot's got a plot, you know. Here he's given an actual dilemma, a real choice as he's going through something. I even like the fact that there's a great moment where he was about to, perhaps have a little personal time. And Mother barges in and it's like, can you knock? And don't
some things never
sisters.
Change.
Yeah. Well, but it's like, wow, he's gonna not, like sometimes they dance around that. And they don't like, there's some good moments in this, but in the end, like it's, Black Against Empire, so I look up this book and it's like, it's a kind of, it is written in the last 10 years. It's a kind of a high level, almost like a biography of the Black Panther Party.
Okay.
And I'm like, there is nothing that this woman is doing, that these people are doing, that say Fred Hampton or Angela Davies would go, base. It's like, no, there's child soldiers, defend what's ours.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where I don't think Thorne was quite as effective. It's raising questions, but it's not really, I don't think he really answered them well. Again, it's still a soft see it for me, especially if you like this genre. For me, like I have problems with the genre, but as far as this movie goes, it's like, wow, better than anything some Jason Statham or Guy Ritchie piece of, sorry, Jim. Piece of it's not bad either. And you're right. Like you spend a lot more time with these people in their life now. It's not a lot of gauzy, Zack Snyder, Woman on a Hill, The Land, you know, like Rebel Moon or something where it's like, oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other things too, is that having watched having been a survivor of post-apocalyptic entertainment, there's a lot of them. What's the SNL one that I constantly send you is the Group Hopper, I think, with Pete Davidson as the hero.
Which is not sent me that once.
Oh, I haven't?
And
okay.
I want it.
Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
Anyway,
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I want to see a full version of it, not just a trailer. But and it's in everything from YA to this to that. How many years did I spend watching those Walking Dead shows? This one I think is more efficient and more straightforward than I don't want to just dump on it, but
yeah.
Maybe it accomplishes more in 113 minutes or whatever it is than say a half season of The Walking Dead, because there are things and never does it sort of linger on something. When Haley's taken prisoner, which is yet another sort of thing that always happens, and I've learned to absolve myself of worrying about when the hero gets taken prisoner. It's just a writerly thing. It gets them into the area without
it's a genre expectation too.
It is,
like,
yeah.
How do you amp up the peril?
I hate it, but it's there and it's in 50% of everything. Anyway, but when she's in that, they've obviously taken other prisoners, tied off part of their limbs, and then harvested their limbs. But they never... Like, that would be a whole 20 minutes in The Walking Dead. That would be like a camera close-up, and then they cut to commercial, and they come back, and it would be a close-up. And, you know, they deal with this and they'd be like, I can't believe they're doing this. But in this, it's a detail. Like it's a detail that you have to watch to notice. And so it's that kind of thing. They don't like, wow, this, look, how horrible is this? They never do that. The other thing too, I was going to say before I forget is that it's Canadian. It's set in Canada. I believe the character, she served in the U.S.
Yep. Which has happened. You know, Canadians have
citizen.
served in the American Armed Forces.
Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't lay on the Canadian aspect too thick. They mentioned that they're in Canada once.
Canadian soil is referred to.
Yeah.
You know, about keeping the farm.
Yeah.
You know, defending theirs.
But in it doesn't, like, it's not super like over the top with that stuff.
No.
I should say one of the rap songs that young Manny is listening.
Doesn't feel jingoistic at all.
No, but one of the songs, interestingly, that Manny's listening to on his old timey Walkman is, I believe it's Chaos, who's a Toronto rapper. So go Chaos, go CanCon Radio. But yeah, that's kind of a funny. I was like, is that Chaos? Because I'm kind of a fan of his. But anyhow,
yeah. Well, I think R.T. I'm saying MT Thorne. R.T.
Thorne, yeah.
Randall Thorne, better known by his pseudonyms R.T. ! Actually, born and raised in Calgary.
Yeah, and shot some of the Porter, or was involved with the Porter, which was filmed in Winnipeg here.
Yeah. He a lot of music video work, but unlike, let's say, Zack Snyder came out with a music video thing, he does not give him this. While he's got an eye for action and he certainly has a visual, can tell a story, can stage a scene. He is not. It's not a bunch of unearned moments. You know, whereas you see in, you know, but some of it also, I want to go back to of course, Jim, you're aware of the news. This production took maybe a year to pay off its crew. Still may be paying off people like debts in and around Sudbury where the film was shot. Went over budget, apparently. There's a part of me wondering, let me ask you this, is maybe some of these scenes that you're saying, oh, thank God it isn't there, that if he had another $1 million, maybe he would have shot him. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't believe that movie producers ever stiff people. Do you have any experiences in that situation, Robert? No,
you know, matter of fact,
but this is the thing that sort of drives me crazy, is that this was available to, like, it was in the theaters here in the summer.
Yeah.
For about a week, and it was the week of the folk festival, I want to say. I think it came out in July. Yeah. And you probably had a week to catch it. Yeah. You know, and that not even 2 weeks. So on Wikipedia, as accurate as that would be, it says the budget's $8 million and it grossed $775,000. I could probably read more about this. What's the plan on making that money back? Like, I genuinely don't understand the streaming economy, and as far as I know, they keep their cards fairly close to their chest. So would they make that money back, or this is something I'll probably be reading up on in the fall? But
you know what, it's Canadian film financing is a weird thing, right? I suspect this movie she may, and this happens to some Canadian producers, this could put her under. She may be paying those debts with the next several projects she does, where she's got to use some of her producer's fee to pay off these old debts. Because they're talking, you know, somebody is like, they owe 32 grand, they've paid 15 of it. It sounds like she's the producer. Oh, and the woman's name, she does have a name.
Holness.
Jennifer Holness is staying in contact with those folks, but she is, yeah, it could be years before she pays them all off. The tough thing is that so when a Canadian film is financed, folks, part of the financing will be the expected tax credit. That could be part of the producer's fee. So the tax credits, that's all bundled as part of the financing. Then there's selling to a distributor.
Mm-hmm.
Canadian distributors are not known for their
Mongrel.
Yeah, it's
Mongrel
Mongrel media. Not known for throwing around billions of dollars or millions even. Here's your dozens of dollars. And they expect a very, quite a lot of rights for their dozens of dollars.
Here's a pickup truck full of empties.
We'll split them. Then of course they're selling the streaming windows, selling to broadcast. That used to be a big thing. It's more dozens of dollars if they even can. So you're trying to sell all this stuff, and who knows? Maybe they thought for sure they were going to get that. They were going to get bridge financing. Interest rates changed, and all of a sudden, to finance the bridge financing, because they need the $1 million at the beginning, not at the end, not 3 years from now, they need it then. And all of a sudden the bridge financing costs more. That comes out of the budget, but it could have also been that it is, I'm pretty sure, just a sec here, Jim, I'm looking at I want to say this is his, so you'd mentioned The Porter, but
I think it's his first movie.
This is his first film.
Yeah.
A lot of television, music
videos.
But this is his first film, and it could very well have been that it got out of hand. But who knows? Maybe, it's, how do you go over budget when you have like $3? What do you mean you spend $4? Did they go into overtime a lot? Did they not? Did they not really budget? Like when I saw Sudbury, it's like, why would you shoot near Toronto? What the hell are you doing out there? Because all of a sudden everyone's got to get put up, right?
You know what, though? Lots of things are being filmed there.
You don't have a big service sector like you do in Toronto. Well, but here's the thing. I suspect, I don't know for a fact, but I know if you're filming out in Carmen, Manitoba, small town Manitoba, you get more of a tax credit.
Oh.
So they could have went there. And coming back to this, Jim, if there was, let's say all of a sudden the town got crowded with productions, you've committed to making it, you've got to deliver it by X time. You have a contractual obligation. And all of a sudden there's 3 movies competing for a very small town. Prices go up. You got to fly more people in. You got to put more people up. That all of it, like all this stuff could totally blow up Holness's budget.
There's a $1,000 or leaving town tax, says Mayor Quimby.
Well, even just, it doesn't even have to be it's just, you just need, there's no hotel to be found. So all of a sudden you're driving people, you're renting cabins outside of town, and you got to drive them all around. I mean, you need bodies for those. Like, it can get really out of control, right?
Yeah. Murderbot was shot out there in some of the quarry scenes. I don't know. You've read it, but I'm not sure if you've watched it yet. So
I've only watched a couple of the episodes. I'm still more into the books.
The other planet that they go to, I think, was Sudbury. So,
I mean, it's just, like you look at Holness is no rookie.
Yeah.
Could have just been shitty luck,
Yeah.
Maybe, who knows though? Maybe she didn't have her eye on the ball. All Canadian film producers, I think, are one movie away from going broke.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're like, it's so lean. And that's, I shouldn't say, that's unique to Canada. It's the States too. It's an incredibly competitive industry. And unless you get some sinecure, it's harder to find now than ever. Like, yeah, you're scraping by every time. You're only as good as your last production. And there's another thing, like you can see why she's keeping in touch with everyone in Sudbury, not just because she may want to go back there. It's she wants to keep working. Like the purpose of everyone on a film set is to go make another. Everyone makes a movie. The whole idea is so that they can make another movie. It is the hedonic treadmill in the form of a job, and it's not even that hedonic. There's a bit of a high when production starts, a bit of a high when post starts, maybe a bit of a high when you're promoting the film. The rest is just misery.
Yeah.
Films don't want to get made. Full stop. Anyway, Jim, let me ask you this. I wanted to ask you a question about this flick and about genre. Somebody described it as not somebody, Hoopla did, but other people have described it as a horror.
And I saw that.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know if I'd call it a horror. Or you get the cannibalism aspect, but they don't even really do any body horror. I really thought, no, action thriller, maybe a bit of sci-fi. It is post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Look at this. Jelly Duck 100 is in the chat.
Oh, I just checked the chat, and then you must have just come in. Hey, Jelly Duck, how you doing? Yeah, nice to have you along. Yeah, I saw this, and I know you don't love horror, and I thought, because I'm the one who recommended this movie, so I thought, boy, I hope this isn't too sort of like that way. And I didn't. Yeah, I mean, it had horrific elements, I guess, or maybe just horror means negativity these days. I don't know. I was wondering. I put down in my notes. Are we working towards a Michael Greyeyes Canadian horror trilogy? Because we have Blood Quantum.
Yeah.
We have 40 Acres. And what's the third going to be? Of course, he was in Fear the Walking Dead. I actually had a little exchange with him on Twitter back when Twitter was actually usable.
Yeah.
And there was a really great sequence where he sort of mad
when
at
it wasn't
the guy.
a terrible bar.
Well, with Twitter, yeah. But there was a great sequence in the seasons that he was in. He's walking. He was sort of missed. He was mad at some of the guys, and he's sort of walking and pouting. And the truck is driving along, and we're going back to our encampment. And he sort of is wordless, and he just slows down and gets in the truck and continues to pout. And it was just sort of a neat. It was a nice character grace note. It was anyway. I sort of said this is great, and he sort of said thanks. I'm like, oh crap, he's listening. But yeah, I'm sort of. And by the way, R.I.P. Graham Greene, of course. I'm thinking, who's the next sort of prominent First Nations actor that we have? And take a look at Michael Greyeyes' IMDb page, and he's done quite well for himself. So, but
I want to bring you back to my question, though.
Yeah, sorry, I got
yeah, but because here's the thing, I actually think there is a fair bit of overlap. I thought of Blood Quantum, and not because of Michael Greyeyes initially, more because without the eating of brains, this is a zombie movie.
Yeah,
it shares so many elements of the zombie movie.
Yeah.
That I couldn't help but think of Blood Quantum, a Canadian movie of a similar idea. We got to protect ourselves from the heathens outside.
Mm-hmm.
There are barbarians at the gates. There are, and we got to protect what we have. Of course, there's always an element that lets them in.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of the genre.
Yeah.
But I'm like, as far as kind of interesting goes, like I think Blood Quantum Jeff Barnaby did it better.
Another R.I.P.
Another
Yeah,
RIP.
that's
Yeah.
one that you like better than I did. I just didn't like the overbearing antagonist in it. That was my one kind of thing that I didn't like about it.
Poor Lysol.
Yes,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But I think like what was interesting about him is the way they set him up. You know he's gonna be the one.
Yeah,
But the way they set him up, the way they still have sympathy for him. Of course he's the one, but he's family. He left. Oh, what did he? Oh my goodness! Just a sec here. I got to look it up. I can't remember his character name before he became Lysol.
I think it was Smeagol.
Smartass. Okay, just a sec here.
Sure. I'll check if Jelly Duck's still there.
He is. He's like Canadian zombie apocalypse. Sounds interesting.
Oh, he got 50 points as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's now a #1 fan. But here it is.
I better say
so
something.
Here's Blood Quantum, 2019 Canadian horror film. One of the early films we covered. I will put a link somewhere here. But if we go to cast, Kiowa Gordon played Lysol. But there was, sorry if I can find it. Okay. So I think it's, no, it's not. It's half brother Lysol. Damn it. It's just Lysol. We're not getting his, but there was a great line. It sticks with me. And I think that is part of what makes, I will forget 40 Acres. I will not forget Blood Quantum. And it's that, yeah, he's the villain. Yeah, he's the bastard. Of course, he's the one who's going to let him in. And he's almost over the top. But it's when one of the characters, the woman, Joseph's almost like girlfriend of a sort, I think she's played by, Devery Jacobs.
Of course.
Yeah. She's the one who says, he went, because remember, like that was, he ended up taking the heat so that Joseph doesn't, and he goes into the system. He had a name, but he came back Lysol.
Yeah.
And that is the heart of the film, I think, is that, I think that is thematically just, it hits like a hammer, which we don't have in this movie. But back to my more genre thing, it's like, this is a zombie movie. They even eat. They're cannibals. It's just such a subtle twist that I think is kind of interesting. But I mean, I'm still like, we've done nothing. Like, here's my biggest beef with these things, which is why I think for some of the lefty talking points that Thorne has in it, I don't think he's a Marxist. I don't think he's read that deeply of the history, or you don't see it in the film. Could have been edited out, but this could be, you change the cast and it's like any other, this is like Farnham's Freehold with a First Nations and Black cast. It's still this weird sort of a small family, well-trained, like even the Manny apparently is in his years has picked up quite the skill at drawing. Let's not forget, he is a highly trained child soldier and farm labor. They're farm labor. We have historical precedent for when everything falls apart. And that is the fall of Romano-Britain when Rome pulls out. And what do you find? Oh, you can still find now hordes of Roman coins.
Mhm.
As the Anglo-Saxons moved in and the Romano-Britons moved west, but they hid their crap because they're like, oh, we could come back. You know, it's why you can still find these amazing villas and everything. Nah, they get pushed out of the way. There is no, this farm will defend, you know, even if you look at it, and this is in any of these movies, how do they get gas? What, boy, there's a lot of power running a fence around a farm that can feed a family of several people, at least 4 or 5, 4 adults. Like, I mean, the Manny's going to be eating a lot.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, there's some sort of limited training. It's weed and hooch. Like that, the vehicles are in great shape, Jim. Remember my Fiat 500?
Yes.
City driver, hardly ever drove it. Like I think there might have been 1 year that I had that vehicle that it had 5,000 kilometers on it. And it near the end, that I think I had 8, 9 years, started to look it.
Oh, yeah.
Started to look it. Things were breaking down. How the hell do these people, these farm truck, the Jeep, how do they keep this stuff going? How? None of this makes any sense.
Yeah, I think
and
that
is, I
aspect.
think, this isn't a criticism of 40 acres. This is a criticism. This is why I can only be soft, because it doesn't really give me anything that interesting.
It's a certain kind of fantasy, you're saying.
Yeah, it's a right-wing fantasy that a few can defend their own. Interesting point of departure that it's Black and First Nations, and that there is some reference to history there. Speaking of which, in the description, folks, I've got a link to a few articles, like a mediocre Government of Canada Black History Month thing, a slightly more interesting, significant Black history pre-1900 in Canada. And then, of course, a Wikipedia article on 40 acres and a mule. But yeah, I'm like, it's still, in the end, it still comes to the same thing. It ends in the same place. Heck, it ends with hardly any stakes. Kid gets bumped off. No one we really get that attached to. The parents, and I'm kind of 50-50 that the parents live. Again, you say, well, where are the stakes here? Are there real, you really start to think, and you don't really see any, the tension. Is it really resolved? This idea that's maybe mom is that they got to actually start building something outside their farm.
Yeah, and I think that's where the character aspect of it comes in. There is that she's got to be the one that sort of breaks a little bit and sort of change her ways, as effective as she's been at defending the family. In terms of things too, the situation that if all the animals were killed and there are no animals left, that doesn't speak well of pollination, which you kind of need. So I guess the birds are alive, but there's several things you could sort of look at by this.
It's kind of, again, a neat idea, it's the whole genre that I'm like, yeah, what? None of this works.
At the very end,
give me cartoon. Give me. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Jim.
No. At the end, they've sort of taken care of the issue of the moment, the one scheming horde that's been ravaging the countryside and took out the Flemings, the other family, and took out her friend's her friend's compound. Yeah. But that hasn't made them, and the way that it ends is Augusta, yeah. It ends with a dinner, family at the dinner table, and they've added a couple new members. But that
Yeah,
doesn't mean they're
that's it.
safer necessarily.
Yeah.
Like I think their world,
They've
by virtue of the
replaced
fact
a
that-
couple of the bodies with a. It's like,
well, they're the whole union thing they can't trust anymore because they
Yeah.
were sort of set upon by some people dressed up as union soldiers. So how do you trust that again? And their little group, their
Yeah.
regional pals have disappeared. So that's news, defense, other lookouts, things like that. So their world is not necessarily safer. Maybe it is for this season, but what about the next season? But I think that's sort of where the turn at the end is Haley being able to accept other people, and
at least one other person, the children.
yeah,
She can turn them into soon to be traumatized child soldiers herself.
Yeah, exactly. And their house is shot up pretty bad too.
I'm going to propose this isn't this again, no stakes. They defend the homestead. Jeez, it's like an American Western. There is another one though that, while imperfect and written and starring a white savior Republican, Kevin Costner, I think is in theme far better and more realistic. Post-apocalypse, The Postman.
Oh, did he do one called Waterworld? I thought you were gonna.
No, The Postman.
There's different. Yes, okay. Yeah.
Same idea. Things have fallen apart. Civil War, unrest, but you see something that's in many respects far more realistic. Small fortified towns. Warlord. Reduced. There's no gas, hardly any power, but horses. And that the opposing force to the warlord is a hustler, a scam artist, just a grifter, got lucky, found an old
monorail,
and lies about being the postman, saying, "Oh, the things are getting better," and it's that building of community, and that this is what the warlord wants to stop, is these pesky peasants are talking to each other. Might even, once they start talking, Jim, we all know what the real problem is. Listen, rustics you are, and rustics you shall remain. I'm king here. And I think that it's at least that's a thematic challenge. That's a challenge to the genre that we don't really see here. This is like tweaking it. It reminds me of, and Deadweiler was in this too. You and I talked about it.
The Harder They Fall.
The Harder They Fall.
Yeah. And I remember us I remember being impressed by her.
Impressed by her, great performances, but my critique of this is very similar to my critique of The Harder They Fall. It's the genre's the problem. And what The Harder They Fall is doing is just what Bridgerton does. It's just what this is doing. We'll change we'll change the cast, but we're really not questioning the assumptions of the genre and challenging that. And I think this is where I look forward to seeing if RT can, get out of that. He came close. Like at the beginning, talking about, they're doing their little book reports because apparently they got all kinds of time. This farm labor, child soldier, intellectuals, and artists. Homeschooling
sounds about white.
Well, it's now at the same time, you could make an argument like that the Black Panthers were, especially early, you know, coming out of more of a different political analysis, but that only developed over the course of the 60s quite quickly, but it was still very much almost like we're here to defend Black people.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, by the end of the 60s, they're like, yeah, no, we're to be truly revolutionary, we're going to work with others. The first, as we learned when we talked about Black Judas, I'm like, I'm embarrassed that I didn't know who Fred Hampton was. I knew who he was, but I didn't really understand. Of course, the FBI, the Detroit police murdered him because he was goddamn dangerous.
Feeding children.
Feeding children and making alliances across the race lines that the police love to exploit. I mean, Jesus fucking H Christ.
You have something against the Chicago police of the 1960s and 70s, Rob?
Well, I believe it's Detroit for Fred. I believe his activism.
No, I think it might be Chicago, but
okay. You know what? We're gonna.
I guess we're gonna
zeroing
look it
in
up.
on this. Come on, Fred. Oh, early to Chicago. You're right.
I think I looked up the house that he was in, or the address anyways, at some point.
Chicago, Illinois. 21 years old.
Jesus. That's crazy.
And yeah, like guys, so it's got the trappings of it, of an analysis, of a real critique, but only the trappings. And yeah, so for me, I'm like, I think there's some story structure problems here. It takes too long to get to have that real inciting incident. It's like, well, when's the movie going to start? When are these people going to be forced out of their bubble? Oh, damn near the movie's halfway done. Okay, now they are. It takes too long to get there, but that's a small thing. It's got other strengths. It's got a great couple of action set pieces.
The second one, the darkness, the one that was done when they shut the shutters on the house, which is cool. Oh. And then then Galen sort of takes care of the baddies. It was just only illuminated by the flash of gunfire.
I've got our thumbnail up. This is a still from the production. I'm like, I had to amp it up to make it work for a thumbnail, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
But damn, like it as the actual still, just, chef's kiss. Yeah, the guy knows. There are moments of real tension, and it's a soft see it for me, not as enthusiastic as you are, but I'm not. My criticism of some of his thematic elements holds, but I can still kind of go, it's still not bad. It's not offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say this for you mentioned Mad Max earlier, and one of the things that I sort of wondered if Canadian film and television is capable of is any kind of like, whoa, like anything on the level of Mad Max. I'm not saying this achieved it, but I'm saying with, unfortunately, Jeff Barnaby, the filmmaker, has passed away, but with things like Blood Quantum and these are kind of really, it's that direction that I'd love to see more Canadian films go in. Not just because when we grew up, the Canadian cinemas, there's a lot of mopey kind of, existential movies.
Canadian, Canada Council for the Arts. Here's your arts grant because it's being transgressive. It's
shot
like, give us some genre cool.
Shot in April or October, months of almost zero light, and just these
Middle
sort of
class
like,
white people bitching about their
yeah,
weird sex
yeah, my
lives.
sexuality, and that, maybe I've outgrown that kind of thing. I don't know, but yeah, just a lot of kind of like not very visionary kind of
Well,
movies, or just really soggy material,
Yeah.
stuff that you're looking at Tubi and you're seeing the thousands of movies, most of them bad. And what you want to see is something goes, oh, I saw that, I could watch that again. Like that, or that sort of movie in the remainder bin, or
Yeah.
at the Salvation Army thrift store. You're like, oh, $5, I'll pick that up. I'd like
Yeah.
to have that in my library. And these are the kinds of movies that I think Canadian film needs more of.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good step in that direction. So again, it's not quite at the Mad Max level, but yeah, I maybe with this new generation, or these newer generations of filmmakers, we can sort of burst out of that.
I want to push
thing.
back a
I
little
don't know.
on that, because I did think of Mad Max, and there's a formalist filmmaker, if there ever was. What's his name? God damn it. George Miller. Here, and this is, even though the genre is a big fantasy, a big right-wing fantasy, and again, changing the players, if you're still accepting the assumptions,
Mhm.
it's still a big right-wing fantasy. I think this one, that it's a little too grounded. Like my criticism of a lot of these post-apocalyptic things is, it is this weird. The right wing doesn't fantasize about being Mad Max. It's too cartoony. It's too crazy.
Mhm.
It kind of, Mad Max in the first film, and if he didn't leave, because remember, he was part of civilization in the first movie, he leaves. He's at the border, and he goes into the dark side. The world he's in is a cartoon world ever since that one. It's just nuts. And that's why you don't see the right wing fantasize about it like they do with these more border ones. So the president of the United States playing the whack job in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Because it's too grounded. He is like, any reasonable read, you could say, oh, it's an anti-war film, and he's obviously a nut bar, but they make him look too cool. And Apocalypse Now is grounded enough that it becomes really easy for the right wing to co-opt. So this guy who should be, it's like, no, that's a dangerous man who's killing people, murdering people so they can surf. Mad Max, that doesn't happen because it's so nuts. It's so bonkers. It's so cartoony. There's no grounding to grab onto. Here, if he's going to take it in that direction, if this is RT's future, you got to commit to even being more, like, make the world crazy. Make it even bigger. Go bigger.
That
not
might
taking 20 minutes. Like, again, if we think The Walking Dead, I would argue another right-wing fantasy. No one ever gets together. These communities are forever falling apart. It's all like, it's all about a small group defending themselves against hordes. The hordes never end. The small group never really gets bigger. It's all just awful,
Yeah.
So
No, I'm not saying.
what the hell? Just go big. And I think that's where he needs to go. Not in a genre film I think we've seen that, except Cronenberg. Like, you can't say Videodrome or Scanners is like, that's nuts. Cronenberg in the 80s, Quebec is forever. like they just generate so much genre stuff that there's something for everybody,
Mm.
you know?
I guess I'm thinking more of just the real standard kind of, CanCon,
Yeah.
cinema kind of thing
Oh,
that gets rolled out from time to
I
time.
got my
But
start on one of these things,
yeah,
Inertia,
yeah,
which is really at its heart, so if Sean Garrity ever stumbles across this, I'm like, I am still grateful
yeah,
for that opportunity that turned into a gig for a few years. But yeah, at the same time, his film is very much middle class obsessions about sex,
yeah, yeah. No,
and in one kind of a weird take on sexual violence, which I was
not that
still
all
kind of like,
Canadian
Jesus
film
Christ,
is.
Sean.
It's not that all Canadian film is dour and soggy, but a good chunk of it was,
Yeah.
It's
Jim,
just neat.
there is a reason we don't seem to watch a lot of it on our channel.
Yeah, there's just a couple of those those action sequences. I thought, okay, this is not something you see every day if you watch Canadian movies. Yeah, I'm speaking in the most general terms.
Yeah.
I'm totally a fan of Cronenberg. I'm not sure all is. I mean, we could talk about where he shot them and that sort of thing. He obviously started off. I mean, Rabid takes place in Montreal, I believe, and Scanners, I think, somewhere on the East Coast anyway. But yeah, it's nice. There's a freshness, I think, not perfect, but there's sort of a Blood Quantum and this, a couple others. There's a freshness to these things.
Maybe we need to do a bit of a deeper, like, that's the
watch
bummer. If you don't watch enough of it, all of a sudden, one every 6 months ain't enough.
Yeah.
One Canadian film a year, not enough.
No. And certainly more French stuff. My wife and I just started watching a French series called Empathy. And holy smokes, is it good. And the actors, none of which I'm familiar with, are top shelf, like just beautiful.
You can watch a Canadian film and a foreign film at the same time.
And I drove through Alberta and Saskatchewan, and
all right, Jim, I want to kind of wrap it up here. We've been we've had a good show. Of course, Jelly Duck 100. Great to see you here. But is there anything you want to, kind of maybe give us a couple of your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Some of the they might have a little section called Grace Notes or something like that. I did want to mention that the Galen, Michael Grey Eyes character, seems to be a bit of a foodie, and sort of is overjoyed when he finds
Jim. That is another one that would have that scene bugged the living shit to me, because I'm like, if they were real, they would have been as excited about spices. They're eating a corn-based diet.
Yeah,
like. They're eating root vegetables, any bit of spice they would have. Oh, thank God. Not, ooh, here's a really cool gun. But apparently they know the history. But anyway, sorry. Back to you, Jim.
Just the foodie aspect of it is really funny. And when he finds the herbs, it's sort of a nice little moment of lightness there. The other thing too, I've noticed a lot more of this, is the whole chapter title thing, where they maybe it's happened all this time, maybe it's a fairly recent kind of thing, but where you actually have the girl, the boy, the family, or whatever it was in this movie, and they actually have sort of chapter titles, which is kind of interesting. I'm not sure if it works for me or not, but just something to keep one's eye on there.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, for me, I think, you know what? I've had my say. And who knows? 6 months from now, or even a week from now, as we discussed at the top of the show, my opinion may develop evolve. Although I think I've had enough time with this film. And that's another thing you need for a deeper dive, a deeper understanding. You need a bit of time. You need a bit of reflection, maybe an opportunity to even watch it again so you can kind of go, okay, is my memory right here? I recently rewatched some of my favorite. Actually, I might have ended up watching them all except the first 3, but at least 6 of the 12 episodes of the second season of Andor. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
God damn, this is still like this is a great show. Just 2 notes because I can't help myself. Whereas here, I'm like, I want to see more from R.T. Thorne, but I'm not 100%. It's like, well, this is pretty good. If this was my first feature film, I'd be like, what's your problem? Look at this.
Yeah.
And just a genius log line. Yeah, I you know what? Still is pretty solid. This is fine. This is a fine film. It's perfectly fine. Where's our man in Vegas right now? Because this is exactly when he'd be chiming in. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you've made it to the end here, please give us a like, a subscribe, and maybe a ringy ding of that bell. All right.
Waking up my neighbors.
All right.